Hey man,
There we go. Hey, how you doing?
good. How about you?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing okay. Had a decent weekend. Well, I spent the whole week in Dallas for work, so just
Oh,
came back last night and I had a decent weekend, all of about 30 minutes.
oh man. Sorry for the long 2 weeks now, I guess, back to back.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. So I got the meeting minutes uploaded last night for our previous
Thanks.
meeting. I can only stay for the first 15 minutes of this meeting. I have a conflict right after.
Okay.
Um, Might be able to stretch it to 20. But I did want to talk about something I wrote up that I want to put on my LinkedIn. And it's
Hmm.
essentially just putting out to my network, looking for a QSAC, a qualified security assessor company to help us author this paper. The person with Coalfire, I don't know what's going on with them, but they've gone radio silent and I don't want to wait on them. So,
Oh, cool. Well,
yeah.
yeah, that's down. I'm down with that. The only other thing that might be time sensitive for me, two things actually that I want to put in front of you
Mhm.
before you leave. One is there's a meeting on the 7th with
Yep.
BSI. I sent the invite. I didn't realize I hadn't sent the invite over yet, so I sent that over this morning.
Yeah, I got it.
Uh, okay, cool. Hopefully you can make that. And
I
then the
should be
other
able.
one, sweet. And the other one is the agenda for it. So that's what I'm going to go through today. Is just I got a deck I started on. Should be in the meeting minutes today or the meeting agenda today. And it's sort of just going through what they were looking for and what I would like to look for. But I'll make sure we're doing similar things here. Like if we go out down this path with BSI, it might make sense for us to go and reach out to one of their assessors in sort of their world. There's
Oh,
a
yeah.
small team called AtSec that I've used at
Okay.
Google with BSI, so it's a very small community. Everybody knows each other, and I think we could get a friendly, like either an answer, yes or no, but like could we maybe get somebody to guide us on their thinking for what's the framework that we should use. And I got to this point when I was thinking through it, like there's two layers. There's like meeting us where we're at now, Horizon One, like all the product teams, all the from the tech all the way to the cloud providers.
Right.
We've all sort of put stuff together, like we bandage stuff together, and trying to create a standard from that is going to be like take what we got today and make a puzzle piece out of it. But
Right.
where do we want to go, right?
Right.
Where is that? Like, I'm sure the TAC might have questions or thoughts, maybe in the governing board, but there is a forward-looking, view, and usually regulators are after the fact and not before the fact. And so I was going to like put that on the table with them on Thursday, like, hey, if all the moons aligned in the right way, what would your preference be, or what would your guidance be for creating a North Star for us to move towards while we're working on the Horizon One today, shooting for Horizon Three in the future?
Yeah.
Um,
That makes
because
sense.
I want confidential compute to be ubiquitous, but I
I
also
do too.
realize everybody did it differently.
What's funny is I listen. So when I was working on the meeting minutes, I re-listened to the conversation from 2 weeks ago, and it struck me again. Something I probably didn't catch up on the first meeting was how the like Abe was talking about and you were talking about. So that you go back 20 years, data encryption at rest wasn't really a thing. We had to make it a thing, and now it's just by default. What do you mean, like you don't have that? That's no, then no, you're not serious, right? And having that similar, that's kind of the North Star for confidential computing. Having it just be one of those, oh, you're processing sensitive data, highly confidential data, then it needs to run in a trusted execution environment.
Right,
You don't do
right.
that, oh, well, then you're not serious. So, yeah,
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 yeah. Like I'm pretty sure a bank won't take another bank's word for it. They need a signature, and that signature is going to happen somewhere very private.
yeah. We're working on use cases internally where I'll give you one where they want to have digital contracts that are only executed if certain criteria are met.
Hmm.
And so they're looking at how can they use the attestation document to provide some of that criteria, right? Because right now it is kind of a Boy Scouts promise
Right.
process, which is not, has all kinds of holes in it. And then we have other ones where I think I talked about on the last one. We have a vendor that we want to use that does AI synthesization, voice to text, but they don't want us to peak their model. But we don't want to
Right.
send our voice recordings, our customer service over to their cloud, right? So how do we accomplish that? And so yeah, I think the trust layer is definitely coming down between financial institutions. But also there's another. So I have a buddy of mine who works for Fiserv in the FDIC space, and they
Mm.
shut down banks. And one of the harder parts that they have is getting these banks that are needing to be shut down to share their data in such a way that it can't be compromised or shared with all the buyers and everything. Right? It's in a very isolated space. And
Right.
I was talking to them about, well, have you guys ever looked at trusted execution environments to host some of this data analysis in so you can ensure that only those players that should have access to it have access to it? And so he was kind of intrigued by that.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. The answer is no, we haven't.
Oh,
Not
well,
surprised at
yeah.
all. Not surprised. No, but I think that's like, so. Just to give you another sense, so I've got a product we're putting into private preview this month here at Google,
Yeah.
where we're calling it confidential external key management. So we've been using external key management for like 6 years. When I was at Talos, I helped work on the sort of the architecture, on the other side as the external key manager,
Right.
somebody holding the keys outside of the cloud.
Right.
But the limits we hit were like performance, and like you're tethered to this HSM that might be outside of your cloud, and that might not be in the same region, let alone the same continent. Where customers were. So confidential came in, and sort of good timing coming in. Like, we're using AMD as our preferred sort of platform for running part of the workload now in confidential compute. So the endpoint's there, but the keys are somewhere else, and we sort of
Hmm.
let it lazily load, through attestation into the confidential space that allows, our key management systems behind the scenes of BigQuery and Gemini and all that just to do their job. But
Right.
the root key is in a backpack of a soldier, or it's inside of a data center, next to a bank that might be off the traditional internet, right? So they might have an offline sort of a relationship. So there's more than one way we're looking at use it, but this using confidential spaces like a beachhead to show the customer, quote unquote, owns the attestation and the responsibility of trust, and the keys are in the customer's hands, and Google has, no access, no rights, and no responsibility. And that's the
That's
last bit
great.
is what we really really like at Google.
Yes.
Like, we give it up, if we can give up control, we will, because
Yeah.
the lawyers love it, and I can sell more of it. So
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I mean, that is like that's one of another untold story about confidence computing for cloud service providers is it makes it absolutely verifiable legal defense. Like it couldn't have been us.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have it. I don't want it.
Right.
Yeah. Um,
Nice.
Sorry guys for being a little bit late.
Hey.
Um, Salman, I wanted to bring in Michael both a point about the the calf and um the element of not only if it or let me bring the topic and how if it
Sure.
relates how we can talk about it in the calf framework. Um, in the last couple of weeks, just I was invited actually, not as an AMD rep, just personal level at University of Toronto and the Monk Institute of Public Affairs, right? This is really, and so it's it's one of the most respected institutions and influential in Canada, if you guys are not familiar with it, but highly recommend to go to that. It's like I would say probably the equivalent of like uh
MIT
uh
or something.
like the Kennedy Public School like at Harvard, for example, like that, right? So it's really very influential. Not the think tank, but just really it's a research, as I said, it's the University of Toronto. It's all public. It's anyway, so Uh, and I was, I mean, I was not presenting anything. It was just really, it was kind of like a small conference. It was just geopolitics and stuff like that. But at one point, I was having a conversation with one of the professors there, and he's not from a technology background; it's really policy background, and the sovereign data sovereignty came up, right, as you can imagine,
Yeah.
and there have been announcements last year, and basically, uh, and then another person came up from another who comes from tech at UFT, University of Toronto, that's the acronym, who said, yeah, there's a confusion between data residency and data sovereignty. Just because your data center
Mhm.
is sitting in Canada doesn't mean, and he was
Right.
like, yeah, absolutely. And then we were kind of having to explain a little bit that, but that was kind of like a light bulb in the head of that professor on the policy side. I'm not saying like it's in it, but I'm just saying like that guy, I can tell you, like I know we recorded, I don't want to bring because it was a per like individual
Mhm.
conversation. And I mentioned confidential computing actually as potential, not as the sole solution, obviously, as you mentioned, key management, data station. There's a whole like if you think confidential computing not just like a encryption, but just as a holistic way, I think that's why I wanted to. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm getting closer to the calf here. Is like basically um to having that holistic message and not just like encryption of data in use, right? Just
Right.
from a messaging perspective, and then also like what you know, um, you know, whether it's Canada or EU, whatever. Like, and I think that's for the ecosystem, right? Like, obviously, we want to make sure that the ecosystem is safe, people are controlling the data, and also enable, right? Whatever, Google Cloud, Azure, whatever the cloud vendors to make, to be successful as well, right? So, but as an ecosystem between hardware vendors, between cloud vendors, and like how we bring that up. So, do you think it's relevant to the CAF, or like it just really was an interesting conversation? But it was outside of the technology space, like just because
Yeah.
I'm an alumni of UFT, so that was invited. It has nothing to do, like it was not related to CC per se, but it just came up, especially in
Sure.
that context of like a policy, grad school, and kind of like a
Right.
very actually quite an influential one actually in Canada at least.
Yeah. I mean, go ahead, Michael. I know you got to run.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think Abe, what you're talking about there is aligned with how we looked at the CAF from a, I don't want to say tiering, but level perspective, right? And we understood that there were components of, or we view that there are components of the whole, holistically competent compute that may be beneficial and have weight to them outside of just your data is encrypted while in processing, right? It runs in an isolated space, right?
Mhm.
So like we articulated there, the attestation component has its own value above and beyond just the data encryption component of it, right? And so, yeah, that's. I think you're 100% aligned on that with your comments around, data residency and data sovereignty and how components of confidential computing can help solve for that. And I like the fact that you saw that there was a difference between the two. I
No,
have to
I
oftentimes
did,
had
but
to
actually,
explain that.
no, that's the thing. No, but I literally jumped on that because there's like um ignorance is like scare, like that's what makes people scared, right? Like I think it's
Yeah.
it's the more we explain, um, the more what are all the different things, what are the no, all the notions that are and concepts, I should say, that are in play, people will understand it and they will internalize it and they will not just like, hey, cloud, this awful thing, or like, no, well, there are ways of doing things like, and then, but also understanding, but because, and also actually making the right or informed decisions, right? As I mentioned, like in this case, oh, the servers are in Canada. It's like, okay, so just because the servers are in Canada doesn't that same,
Who's got the
data
keys?
center. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Right. So it's just like, and it really interesting. Like, I think what I found that sometimes, you know, depending on the level of knowledge, et cetera, of the regulators and or people involved in policy, et
Mhm.
cetera, and that's where I was, how we can help them to, it's not pushing, it's just really removing I think the urban legend part of it. Like that's the other part. It's like, and explaining that. And I think that there is an educational element to it. I think the CAF is a great like starting point for the ecosystem, but I think beyond that, like we need to, uh, and I guess I'm repeating myself from last time as well. I think the messaging with the outreach committee, I think will be important to make it as well as having some mainstream element in the communication on the messaging part, so that it's not just tech to tech people talking. That professor is advisor general on different policies, not on technology specifically, to the Canadian government. So, hopefully that, as I said, that bulb that lit up is would be good ones. Like, and there's a technology potentially that could solve that challenge. And it's like that's the part I'm trying to get to. So I don't know if that
Cool.
makes sense or not.
No, it does. It does. And similar to the conversation we're going to have, today around the BSI. I mean, they are very influential, obviously, for the German market, but they also
Mhm.
connect with the NATO, and the EU and other groups, and they're all asking similar questions, right? Or they're putting down similar requirements that we need to have data sovereignty, not data residency alone. And data is not the only thing; it's the controls and
Yeah.
who do we trust? Who have we cleared to work on this? Can we make sure that they're national national citizens, nationalized citizens, so we can say, hey, it's a German operator, it's a German administrator, it's a German data set, so we can claim sovereignty, but they still need all the controls, and confidentiality is a huge piece of it. And I think that's for better or worse, the world is sort of like pulling back into sort of their boundaries and their borders, yet they still want to find a life with cloud, right? They want the scale, they want the
Yes.
ease, right? They want all the things that come with it. I mean, there's a lot of most of the of Europe cannot go back to data centers because there's
No.
no room or power. There's
Right.
nothing's left. It's all gone.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting moment where things like confidential compute can truly create a bridge
Yes.
between certain states that are out now and where they want to be.
Yep.
Cool. Michael, feel free to drop whenever you need to. I know you're short on
Yeah, no,
time, so
I've got about I talked to the person. I've got about 10 more minutes.
oh, cool.
Yeah.
All right, I'll go through the administrative stuff real quick. I was gone for pretty much half of the last 2 weeks, and Michael was working double time for both weeks. So, but anyways, not long story short, I think the minutes they're good. Michael put those up yesterday, so please review them at your leisure, and we can consider them approved. I have two sort of high priority agenda items. The first one is reviewing or discussing the presentation with BSI that's happening this Thursday. So BSI has been gracious enough to say we'll spend some time with you, and they put together a light agenda that they want to get through, and I put together one to go with it. I'd like to review a little bit of that today. Part of that is going to be talking about the CACAF and sort of how that plays into our needs for validation, but also some tangible questions that came up that I was just sharing with Michael a minute ago around if we were to look at the regulatory, landscape across all the different environments we're going to be, working in, what is going to be like the lowest common denominator, the lowest fruit to grab, with a regulator like BSI and their ecosystem, and we'll talk a little about that. And then I left some space for some new business, but I think the CACAF, getting that over into the TAC is something I want to get done like ASAP. But I want to first get a validation from BSI before I had technical people dive into it more. There might be something surprising that BSI wants to share with us, so I want to be open to that.
Before we jump into that, can I just briefly then share the LinkedIn
Yeah.
post?
Yes, please.
I think I'm a little bit long on the words for it. Okay. Let me break it up. I'm gonna put it in the chat, and then if you can just read it real quick. And then this would be the second part of it. So I'm thinking about putting this, sharing this with my LinkedIn. I originally had a contact at Coalfire lined up, but they've gone radio silent. So I have a fairly large community on LinkedIn with QSAs and QSAC. And so this is trying to, one, get more people to attend these meetings, and two, see if we can partner with the writing of a kind of like guidance doc for the PCI DSS community. They tend to, my experience having been a former QSA is, you can be the smartest person in the world, but until a QSA says it, it doesn't really matter. So it's the hubris is like wild, but leaving that aside, I'm gonna do a nod to that, and then hopefully also by leveraging somebody who's currently working for a QSAC qualified security assessor company, we can then also they can present that to the council and have the council also publish it on their page as well, which just adds even more weight behind it. I kind of already got the paper written. I wrote it internally here at Chase. Our CISO loved it. He asked me to write it externally, which is why I was originally working with Coalfire because they are a QSAC. But I've got pretty much 90% of the paper written. I just want a QSA to go through it, validate it, and then be willing to put their John Hancock on it as well. My intention is to actually publish this with in conjunction with the Confidential Computing Consortium. So it'd be on our site, hopefully on their site, and hopefully on the JP Morgan Tech blog, as well as then the PCI SSC blog site as well. So maximum reach. But anyways, I'm going to share this out. If anybody would like to also share this out on their, I'll include the links to our
Sure.
meetup. But if anybody else would like to share that on LinkedIn, greatly appreciated.
Yeah. When are you gonna post it?
Sorry, I should have said, can you read through it real quick and give me some feedback on it? I was exhibiting my own hubris, like I nailed it right out the gate. If you can take 5 minutes, read through it, and see what makes sense, what doesn't.
Mm-hmm. But so are you also looking for the CCC to post it on the profile, like on the CCC LinkedIn account, for example, or just
That's a great suggestion.
even
I hadn't even thought of that actually.
Yeah.
I was just gonna
The
post
other
it
thing,
online, but that's a great suggestion.
yeah. So that, but also at minimum, potentially. I mean, at least you can. I can convey. Laura Martinez is the chair of the outreach committee, and I think what can be done is at minimum liking and reposting, right? Maybe not you post it, but
Right.
the CCC and us here on this group, and so to amplify. General rule of thumb: Tuesday morning, Wednesday mornings are the best, by the way, for LinkedIn posting to get more attention. Just
I hadn't known that.
Yeah.
It'll give me time to refine this.
Yeah. So yeah, Monday is not the ideal. Monday morning Eastern time zone. Just I would say like 11 a.m. Eastern usually is a good optimal, both because it hits Europe. It's again, there's no perfect one, but that's usually what I'm on the outreach committee as well, so I wear multiple hats. So I have to look into this stuff. So, but I think it's I'll have a look. I can't I'm reading.
Okay, cool.
Who's the audience here? I guess Michael.
The audience is anyone who is a QSA or to be a QSA, you have to work for a QSAC currently. I'm not one.
Okay.
But that's the audience right now is somebody who is actively a QSA working for a QSAC.
Okay.
Cool.
Do you mind if I just
Sure.
put comments in or message the chat? No, because the chat is not persistent.
That's right. It's ephemeral. So, no, that works great actually. Yeah, that works. And if it makes sense, do you want me to just put it in the Slack channel?
Yes. Oh, perfect. There you go. Actually, I
See,
was
I get
sorry.
one
Just
good idea a day.
uh,
That was it. All right.
that was it. Perfect. There you go. Slack
All right.
channel, and also
Awesome.
I'll raise it to Laura. She's the chair of the outreach committee. So if like basically yeah, the outreach committee feels that it's something that we need to, I think it's worth it. But I can't speak on behalf of the
Okay.
whole committee. Um,
Okay.
Cool.
And Jen's just some non this business, but the other stuff that we talked about, I'm still waiting for an update from
Oh, yeah.
that, right? Okay.
Whenever you're ready, like just let us know. Yeah, it's not the
Yeah.
reason why I joined here.
No,
I
I
want to
figured it
join
wasn't,
here
but I
regularly.
figured it's the chance for me to catch you because I've got to drop now. Appreciate everyone. I'll as soon as the video is uploaded, I'll put the minutes up there and we'll get going on it. Thank you, gentlemen.
okay.
Cool.
Great,
Yep.
Michael.
So before I hop into the presentation, Jen, did you have an item?
No, not really an item for anything specific to discuss. I'm joining regularly because we will release shortly together with MITRE our huge standardization framework for continuous remote attestation for the US government.
Mm-hmm.
And I am 100% sure there will be lots of questions around that. And I just want to, the moment I can share it with you guys in here, want to do that. And that's the main reason why I'm joining now already regularly.
Awesome.
Because I believe in the next meeting that we have here with this SIG, I could share the paper with you guys.
Awesome.
Would love to get your feedback. And then at some point we do a CCC presentation too.
Awesome. That sounds great.
Yeah.
On that, yeah, I would love to learn more when I can, because I mentioned this, I think, right before you joined. I've got a CC use case in a new product that we're putting out to market. We're going in a private preview this month. What that means is like it's invite only, but we're still talking about it so people can
Mhm.
understand what we're doing. And that is our confidential external key management solution, which
Oh,
basically
nice.
is going to have external key management
Mhm.
evolve in a way where we sort of snap the design a little bit in half, and the endpoint runs locally in the confidential space that's controlled by the
Mhm.
customer or their partner of
Mhm.
choice, whoever that is, and the actual payload, the keys themselves, are kept off cloud in what it could
Okay.
be in a backpack, it could be in a data center, it doesn't really matter. It's meant to be low friction, anywhere you want to go, but there's a lot of attestation and qualification. Like, all right, are
Yeah.
is the soldier in on the field? Yes. Okay, then light everything up. If they're off the field,
Yeah.
turn it all down, right? Or
Yeah.
it could be where, you have to have three parties all in the same building, right? Or three, workloads happening in the same region, whatever it might be. That might be a location
Mhm.
thing. And if that's not true, it can't open up. So there's going to be a lot of dependency on sort of
Mhm.
an external set of attestations through
Mhm.
policy and internal or confidential attestations as well. So, it might not
Okay.
be exactly what you're working with, but it's something that's in the same vein. And
It's
we're
yeah.
we're pretty
Uh,
open to this. And most of our customers are financial services and special forces and
yeah.
intel type
Yeah.
people. So
So it's on your GovCloud, and also at some point, this is really interesting. I would like to learn more about this because there's a specific other work stream we have
yeah.
that we came to through MITRE
Hmm.
for defense, and yeah, it's always difficult. You always have to think three times before you share what you're about to say.
Of course.
But it's really interesting, and it might be relevant in a specific case, and I would love to learn more about it.
Cool. Well, let's do this. Maybe we have a separate meeting that's just like, let's do some
Yeah,
collaboration that might not be regulatory specific.
yeah,
Even though we
I love
know that
this.
on the other side, like we want it to be something that will be approved and accredited and all that stuff, right?
Makes
Cool.
sense.
1 second here. I had one last thing to put on the agenda. Where is my share button? Yep, there. So as I mentioned, there is a meeting with the BSI It's with Herr Stefan Wetzel. I've known him for a couple of years now because I've been working with the German government in my capacity at Google to make sure everything's above board and what they need. And they're pretty much like the NIST of Germany. NIST and NSA sort of in one. They do some security responsibilities as well as standardization and accreditation. Long story short is, we put together a quick agenda. It's really, we're going to introduce ourselves as the CCC and the RNS, and like, what does that mean for them? We're going to talk a little about the CACAF and sort of what that framework looks like, and I'll review it with them and hopefully get some kind of feedback. This group that we'll be working with, they're about half regulatory and half technical. So I'm comfortable handling the technicals, but you guys both have an open invitation if you want to join us. It's I think it's 10 a.m. Eastern on Thursday, so I'll send it to you if you can join. Great. Don't feel bad.
Sure,
Worst
that'd be
case,
great.
worst case, I
go
can
ahead.
translate a few things if there are any obstacles.
Cool. Yeah, there you go.
Originally German. Yeah.
Fantastic. Wunderbar. So yeah, I think the other part is not just getting feedback on the framework, which gives us these assurance levels we've talked about, but we think there's also a couple questions and guidances that we're looking for them, particularly around which direction do we want to go with common criteria or approved products, which is a very specific national thing in Europe, but it's pretty common. Most of the major nation states have some similar, approved product for usage at their highest levels of security. There's usually a common level that everybody's cool with. NATO, D32 is a good example where it's sort of trying to reach across everybody, but then almost every nation has a specific level. So let me just, I don't want to go through that. I got to still fill on that. This is what I wanted to sort of present to them is, we're using the CAF, which I've sent them ahead already, going after assurance levels. We're going after interoperability. We're really trying to align the different regulatory, regimes. And as I mentioned earlier, usually regulatory regimes come in after a technology has been put into the market, and it's usually way after. Like we still don't have a CC, framework out there or regulatory, framework out there that's common, and it's been in the market for at least 5 years at some capacity as a high, high trust solution. So there's a lot of just things that we think there's some opportunities to collaborate on regarding the framework so that we can sort of get that trusted transparency with them. And the last one, which is sort of the important one for me, is actually, that's great. We have a framework, but, when I look at regulations, usually you're trying to regulate something that's already in the market. So we need to figure out how do we have a common, sort of criteria approach or something like it around what's already in the market, and which means that the cloud providers and the hardware providers, and all the other players at the table, we have a bunch of different pieces. We have different Lego pieces that are all slightly different. Can we come up with a common criteria guidance so that they can write their protection profile or their security profile? Or do we have a standard one that we can say everybody wants to go after this protection profile? That's hard to do when you have so much difference between the products, I think. So I look at it as there's twofold. One is like, let's go to Horizon 1, which is what we know today and have in the market today, that we want to have a way to get common criteria or an approved product or something like that in the market. And then the second one is we want a gold standard. Like, it would be really great, and I know I'm probably going to step on people's toes here, but it would be really great if we could find a way to work within the CCC to actually put out a protection profile and get it, basically validated and assessed by the regulators, and then we can start building towards it. Whether it's our current products and a roadmap adjustment, or maybe some products are going to be pretty close there already, or we literally are that far off the mark, because I look at it as we're going after a general purpose TEE that's running in the general, ecosystems and architectures of IT and cloud, not HSMs, not like very specialized hardware. So it is a bit of a new thing, but it's really more like an existing thing with a North Star, if that makes any sense. Like, how do we create a gold standard goal that we all can work towards? It's achievable by anybody. It shouldn't put anybody to the curb. It should be like we all want to align like this. And that's the part where I don't know enough because I haven't been part of the CCC enough to be like, are we all friends here? Can we figure out a way to have a common goal together, or are we going to end up, trying to cut each other's, tires as we're going down the road? You know, I don't know, but like that's where I think it's be really good to see their input, which is like, do you have a bunch of just standalone, profiles that are sort of cobbled together from a framework, or do you have one gold standard that we all can move to, or do we do both? And it's really the choice of the market and the makers to do it. I'm gonna pause there because I'm hoping you have feedback or opinions.
It's such a big topic, and there's always religion.
Yes.
There are the purists, and then there are the very practical people, and then there are the very academic people, and I think it's a gigantic gap. So we discussed this in the MITRE working group, and part of that is also the NSA Research Directorate, which has really, really smart people. And we discussed how much can we define this really as a standard, and how much blowback we will get. And then we had a few feelers out, and yeah, there are lots of opinionated people in this space of computer science. Let me put it this way.
Yeah.
And we will
Yeah,
put
I think
our standardization framework for public review. So everyone will be allowed to comment, and then we potentially adjust. And I think that's a good way forward.
Yeah. Anything that's going to become a standard, that's a really good point. You have to do that. Whereas if we're trying to put together some profiles based on what's in the market, like that's reactive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I mean again, now I'm wearing the AMD hat. So, but also like thinking how the ecosystem can succeed, because I'll tell you, this is not me talking. This is our CTO kind of giving his guidance, right? So, interoperability, standardization, that's just always been AMD's philosophy. So again, each company is free to do whatever they want. I'm not saying it's the right way or the wrong way. I'm just stating AMD's position here.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I like the approach of like, hey, what can we do with what we have today in the market? Like, and not, this is not just an AMD statement. I think it's just a realistic view of the world. But it's still North Star. I think the North Star, I can tell, as you can imagine, guys, from a hardware company, and even for you, even the cloud vendors, you have a huge physical infrastructure. Silicon design is a long time. Like, it's just, the timelines are like, to me, as I joke sometimes, like 2028, 2029 is almost the past for me, right? Like, don't talk to me about anything like it's 2028, 2029. Like, if we have to change something in the hardware, right? That's what I'm just saying. Like, it's kind of like, so North Star is good, because then frankly, that just maybe from a selfish personal perspective, I can go internally and go and push towards that North Star. And I'm assuming my colleagues at Intel, at NVIDIA, or any other silicon vendor will be able, who are in CCC or see the document, it's public, whenever we publish it, to your point, I think for that's where we get traction.
Yeah.
It will help people like us to go internally and push toward, hey, look, this is basically where things are going, as opposed to, oh, I'm having conversation here and there. No. When it's starting to become public, that's where kind of there's a energy behind something. So, just to me, that I think it's the really productive approach. I guess that's my opinion.
That's good to hear both perspectives. I think for me, the coming back to, like, what can we do now? Like, I don't want to hinder that at all. We need to be doing that now, and we need to find the markets and the regulators in those markets that say, okay, we have opinions, we have guidance, we have whatever. I mean, we could just tell everybody like just go figure it out, and they can just go figure it out. But then what's the point of this SIG? We want to give them a path towards regulations with what we have. And then I think you're right. The North Star standard based, this is what CC needs to be, and it's probably not going to have a lot of missing pieces for most, teams. Like we're not going to go build something, a North Star that's just like it's 20 years in the future, you'll never get to it. But you might be like 85% there, and here's where you are on that the assurance levels, and you're guiding towards the others. While at the same time, you're also filling in this CC profile, right? For as a target, for example. So I think there's some things to still figure out, but I think if we put it in those two lanes of like Horizon 1, Horizon 2, knowing what we want to go after, there might very well be a Horizon 3 super North Star. How do we get to Mars with this stuff? But the first two are so time consuming anyways. It's good to put a lot of energy into the first one, get that guidance for the second one, and then you can rally for more support as the second horizon moves in. Because same thing with Google. Like we work with more than one vendor, particularly on the CC side, but then we have we need standard tooling and APIs and things would be great, because right now it's just everything's different, and depending on the customer's use case, we might give them 3 different tools. Here you go, figure it out, try to be compliant. And so like it'd be nice to have some turnkey solutions, because we don't really have a gov cloud. We have IL5 on all of ours, so we just do it through policy and tooling on top, which is good. But then also at the same time, like if CC is going to be in the mix, like how do we raise that bar and say, hey, you can come in with your mission X and use this for Y, like the confidential EKM, for example. That's a really big one for me. I can basically tether an EL or an IL5 environments to one of these externally key managers or wherever they are, and they can scale globally, and that would be great to have some guidance around, like here's how you actually get credited, because it is it's an external piece that comes with it. So anyways, that was really helpful for me. I didn't have much else on the agenda today, unless anybody else did.
So I don't know if it's thing that came up in the previous conversation with BSI. I'm talking about not CCC, but just like from an AD perspective, was the supply chain security. I don't know if that's and how computational computing can help with that. I'm just that's something that questions might pop up there. And I'm not saying that I'm just and how the CAF would address that or not. Just at least that's from a meeting I had with them maybe a year and a half ago or so, as from an AMD's perspective, not CCC capacity. Just I can hear that question. Potentially.
Yeah. We have I can't go into the details of it, but we've got some products
no,
of course, through BSI this last couple of years, and you're right. Like supply chain matters a lot. When you're a cloud provider, you have a very complicated and complex, supply chain. So I think supply chain was the big one. The big thing for them is called the TOE. The TOE is the targeted evaluation.
Nice.
And inside that TOE, if anything has to do anything with cryptography, it's in scope, right? Whether it's like I'm an MTLS, I've got some entropy being generated, collected, like whatever it is, it goes into it. So I think the TOE for a CC is not going to just be the hardware. It's not just going to be the services around the hardware. It's going to be anything that interacts with it for data that might be in use that's sensitive up to a level, BNSF, I think is what it's called, BNSF. It's the German top secret stuff. And so there's, based upon the level of the data and if in use is in scope, understanding where does it end for a given implementation, because it might be different for you versus other hardware providers, cloud providers too. Like we use Kubernetes and a lot of other things in our solutions, and that means that parts of our Kubernetes are in scope, and because they have a key in them, even though it might be just like traditional TLS, it's still in scope for evaluation. So those are the things that I learned along the way. It wasn't just obviously the supply chain was huge, but like anything that had anything to do with the data or the crypto, you're going to have to go through and defend why it is or isn't in the tote. So cool.
Yep.
That's all I had. Thanks, guys. Appreciate your time
All right.
and your help.
Of course,
I invited you both to the meeting on
Okay.
Thursday, so let me know if you have any problems with it, but you're welcome to join. And like I said, it's friendlies, so the team on
Yep.
their side are friendlies. So there's no other parties, just BSI and CCC. At least that's how, as a collective, that's how we're representing ourselves.
Sounds good.
It's shocking to me they're still using WebEx though.
Oh, dude, that's the upgrade. I don't even want to tell you what I had to use the first time I met them. WebEx is an upgrade for them. All right.
The Germans.
Thanks,
The Germans.
hey, if it works, don't break it.
Yeah. True.
All right. Cool.
All right.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Cheers.